Hundreds of drivers have run through the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series during its short 7-year history. Many have emerged as stars, proving that trucks to be a successful career launching pad. But today, in the 2002 season opener, we find familiar faces from the Winston Cup bringing veteran experience to the trucks, resulting in the most competitive field in series history. Age and experience will battle youth and enthusiasm as over a dozen drivers make their first career truck start here at the World Center of Racing. The trucks are poised for high speeds and high drama on the high banks, which could mean only one thing. Welcome to Daytona. And it can only be seen right here on ESPN. ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, presents NASCAR. Today, beneath the glow of bright Florida sun, we welcome you to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, for our live coverage of the 3rd annual NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Florida Dodge Dealers 250. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. This will mark the 3rd consecutive year the NASCAR Craftsman trucks have kicked off their season here in Daytona. And if you missed the first 2 times they were here, they had a combined 59 lead changes, and a third of the field in each of those races was credited with leading a single lap. As for this year's race, on Wednesday, these trucks were clocked at almost 194 miles an hour. That's 8 miles an hour faster than what it took to win the Winston Cup pole for the Daytona 500. And that's required a rule change that came in just a few moments ago. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment. I'm joined by Busch Series and Winston Cup regular veteran Phil Parsons. And Phil, the rule change, so much happening each and every lap, that must make the ultimate challenge here for the drivers.
Well, Doc, without a doubt, this racetrack is so different than any other racetrack these Truck Series guys race on. You have literally hundreds of decisions to make more here than you would anywhere else. You have to decide whether you want to go on the inside, on the outside, which line to draft with, who to draft with, whether to try to pass or whether to stay in line. There's a nice mix of half the field that have never started a Craftsman Truck Series race at Daytona, and then obviously the other half have. So there's a nice mix between veterans and newcomers. If I had to pick a favorite, I'm going to go with a veteran.
Well, speaking of veterans in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, our special guest today played a major role in the growth of this series early on. And we are joined by the inaugural NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion, Mike Skinner. And Mike, he went from Craftsman Truck champ in 1995 to Daytona 500 pole sitter in 97 as a Winston Cup rookie. How realistic is it for one of these guys we're going to watch today to make that kind of rapid rise?
Jerry, I think it's very realistic. These guys are down here in Daytona. It's exciting. The Truck Series is exciting. They're getting to show off in front of all the Winston Cup guys, and they're going to try to do everything they can to showcase their talents. I think this is a great opportunity for them, and the next Winston Cup champion may just come out of this field someday.
Mike, good to have you with us today here. Now, we mentioned a moment ago the rule change just being in effect a few minutes ago. Let's check in on pit row with more. Here's Amy East.
And that rule change affects the air cleaner element housing. Usually there's 2 fresh air hoses. Today they only have 1. That will decrease the horsepower, and there'll be a lot of variables. We'll tell you about those later.
Thanks, Amy. Take a look at the starting grid. Ted Musgrave will get his 3rd career pole. He was a 7-time winner last year. There is last year's winner, Joe Ruttman, who won it from the pole, starting back in 15th spot. And here they come down 36 strong to the green flag at Daytona. Glad to have you with us. Beautiful day here for racing. Front row is Ted Musgrave, and beside him, former 2-time champion, the winningest driver in NASCAR Truck Series history, Ron Hornaday Jr. Down a 3,600-foot back straightaway. It looks like a pace lap. They are 2 by 2 by 2, separated by just a few feet. Got to ask you guys, first lap under the new rules, it looks like things are going to be a little bit tight.
I think so, Doc. Anytime you can cut the horsepower back on these trucks, that brings the field together a little bit. So, obviously, as you mentioned, it looks like a pace lap, at least 2 wide, if not 3 wide. They're 3 wide about 6 rows back.
Musgrave in the middle. Here goes Mike Bliss, the IWX Chevrolet. Bliss, a 7-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series winner. Took a couple of years away from the series to go run Busch and Winston Cup. He makes a challenge for the lead off of turn 2.
All the guys in the garage here have been talking about how strong the Dodgers are, You've got 2 Dodgers right now hooked up, the 1 and the 2 teammates. We'll see what they can do together.
That is Jason Leffler. That was the truck that Scott Riggs drove a year ago, the number 2 we're talking about, the Team ASC Racing Dodge, the Ultra Motorsports machine. And there's Leffler now trying to hook up with his teammate.
These guys have an idea now of what this rule change is going to mean. When they push their foot down on the throttle, they didn't get as much response as they did before because they're down about 80 horsepower, as Amy mentioned.
Speaking of experience, the 52 truck in the middle of your screen here, that's Mike Wallace, who won the inaugural NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series event here 2 years ago. He's driving for Kenny Schrader in the Federated Auto Parts Chevrolet. Now, Mike started back in 27th spot and is making his way toward the front in a hurry. He has already gained 6 spots in 2.5 laps. There comes Mike. Let's check in the pits with Ray Dunlap.
Well, Jerry, actually, Mike had to drop to the tail of this field here today because he missed the drivers' meeting earlier today. So if he's going to win this race today, he's got a lot of trucks to pass. But he said within 5 or 6 laps, he thinks he can get his way to the front. He's going to try to work with Rick Crawford.
And Mike Skinner, the experience of a Mike Wallace or someone like you that's been running Winston Cup for a number of years really just has to pay off here in the early laps of this truck race when things are so tight. You're so accustomed to tight packs and cup.
That's right. You know, he's been in this hornet's nest before. He's just picked his way up through there. He's got a lot of experience, and he just got to have a little patience here because it's going to be a while. He's got plenty of time to get to the front. Looks like he's got a strong horse. The Dodgers don't seem to be hurting too much with the rule change.
Speaking of changes, how about up front? We got a lead change. Brian Rose, his first ever NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series start at Daytona. And here on lap number 4, his Bobby Hamilton Dodge is leading.
Well, you talked about how many lead changes we had over the first 2 years. I don't think this year is going to be any exception. But how about Brian Rose? That is the truck that holds the track record here in qualifying. Joe Ruttman set that record 2 years ago.
And riding along with his teammate, Robert Presley, who's basically, Presley is driving the truck that Ruttman used to sit on the pole and win with here last year. Presley in the 18, they're both red trucks. And they are just tied together. Presley back in 3rd spot, giving a shove to Dennis Setzer. And Jason Leffler looks high.
Great run early on by Dennis Setzer in the Axiom Chevrolet.
With more on Brian Rose, let's check in with Amy.
Well, he would sure like to have Robert Presley behind him right now because they did indeed do a lot of testing this winter. Brian's feeling very comfortable. As so, it looks like now his teammate did not go with him. He stayed with Dennis Setzer. That's not what he'd like to see, but now he would indeed like to tuck in behind this 3, now 4 truck draft.
And Mike Skinner and a lot of the veterans were concerned about Brian Rose never having been here, and maybe his inexperience would be a problem. Brian assured them that he would be smart. I think he made a good move not to slide back in there and try to sneak back into the track.
He really did, and it's really early. You know, teammates are hard to call here at Daytona. You know, you think you got a teammate, you got to go with where you have to go, and the draft and the air dictates what line you take, and we're going to see the veterans come to the front.
Speaking of which, Mike Skinner just said the veterans coming to the front. That's exactly what happened. Here comes Robert Presley. His very first ever NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series start. He has spent the last 9 years as a Winston Cup regular. Now driving full-time here in the Craftsman trucks. Will run all 23 events. Driving for Bobby Hamilton Racing in that Dodge Motorsports machine.
We talk about teammates and how Brian Rose would love for Robert Presley to have got up on his bumper and helped him. Mike, there's sometimes as much as you want to try to get with a guy, you just can't do it. The situation dictates that you just can't do it.
You really can't. Like I said, you got to know which way the air is going to be, and you got, if your truck gets a sniff of air, you got to take it. And Robert wants to run up front. Robert's he's a great driver. He's got a lot of experience. He needs to get to the front. He wants to try his truck out, see what the handle's doing, see how good the front tires are going to last on the thing. And I'm sure later on, when things settle down, if his teammate wants to get back up there, he'll give him a chance.